The machines never stop talking in the ICU. They whisper secrets about heart rates and oxygen levels, conducting conversations in electronic beeps that somehow make more sense than anything humans have said to me in the past week. My name is Eliot Glass, and I'm lying here staring at ceiling tiles that look like they've seen better decades, wondering why hospital designers think beige is the color of healing. "Mr. Glass, you're awake," says Nurse Trish, checking the IV line that's been my constant companion since the accident. She's got that professional smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, the one they teach in nursing school for situations like mine. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," I say, which is funny because that's exactly what happened. A delivery truck ran a red light and turned my Honda Civic into expensive scrap metal. The driver walked away with a scratch. I got a helicopter ride to Massachusetts General and a new appreciation for morphine. "Your vitals are improving," Trish says, making notes on her tablet. "Dr. Martinez says you're responding well to treatment. The internal injuries are healing faster than expected." I nod, trying to sit up straighter in the bed that's become my world for the past 8 days. 8 days of beeping machines, terrible food, and the kind of boredom that makes you count ceiling tiles for entertainment. 8 days of waiting for my wife to show up. "Has anyone called about visiting hours?" I ask, though I already know the answer. I've been asking the same question every day, and Trish's expression tells me nothing has changed. "We tried reaching your emergency contact," she says carefully. "Your wife, Vanessa Glass. The number goes straight to voicemail." Voicemail. Right. Because Vanessa is currently sipping margaritas in Cancún with her girlfriends, living her best life, while I'm hooked up to machines that beep every time my heart remembers it's supposed to keep beating. She left 3 days before my accident for what she called the trip of a lifetime, a girls' week in Mexico that she'd been planning for months. The trip was non-refundable, you see. That's what she told me when I suggested maybe, just maybe, she should come home after her husband nearly became a permanent resident of the local cemetery. "The deposits are non-refundable, Eliot. You understand, right? You're going to be fine." Fine. That's what you call someone who's had their spleen removed and 3 ribs reset. Fine. My phone buzzes on the bedside table, and I reach for it with the arm that doesn't have tubes running into it. Another text from Vanessa, sent from some beach bar where the Wi-Fi is apparently strong enough to send sympathy messages, but not strong enough for actual phone calls. "Hope you're feeling better, babe. The weather here is amazing. Stella says hi. Can't wait to see you when I get back. Love you." The emoji parade at the end really drives home her concern for my well-being. Nothing says, "I care about your recovery," like a cocktail glass and a beach umbrella. I scroll through her Instagram stories because apparently I enjoy torturing myself. There she is, all sun-kissed and glowing, raising a drink to the camera with her girlfriends Mara and Stella flanking her like backup dancers. The caption reads, "Girls Trip Magic. Sometimes you just have to live your truth. Hashtag blessed, hashtag non-refundable, hashtag living my best life." Living her truth. Her truth, apparently, doesn't include rushing home when her husband's internal organs decide to rearrange themselves, courtesy of a delivery truck. "Mr. Glass?" Trish is looking at me with something that might be concern. "Is everything all right?" "Perfect," I say, setting the phone aside. "Just checking in with my loving wife." Trish doesn't say anything, but I catch the slight tightening around her eyes. Medical professionals see everything, and they're trained not to judge, but that doesn't mean they don't notice patterns, like wives who don't show up when their husbands are fighting for their lives in intensive care. "She's traveling," I explain, though I'm not sure why I feel the need to defend her. "Mexico. The trip was planned months ago." "Of course," Trish says, and her tone is so neutral it could be used to calibrate instruments. "Well, you're making excellent progress. Dr. Martinez wants to move you to a regular room tomorrow if your numbers stay stable." After she leaves, I lie back and listen to the machines continue their electronic conversation. The heart monitor beeps steadily, marking time like a metronome for the symphony of my recovery. Each beep is a reminder that I'm still here, still breathing, still waiting for my wife to remember that marriage vows typically include something about in sickness and in health. But Vanessa's interpretation of those vows apparently comes with fine print. Sickness and health, sure, but only if it doesn't interfere with non-refundable vacation plans. I close my eyes and try to sleep, but my mind keeps wandering to the receipt I found in our joint checking account before the accident. A charge for $2,000 at Paradise Getaways Travel. $2,000 for a trip that's apparently more important than her husband's life. That's when the thought hits me, clear and sharp as the pain in my ribs. I wasn't her husband. I was her backup plan. The reliable guy who'd be there when she got back from living her best life, ready to hear all about her amazing adventures while I recovered from nearly becoming a statistic. Well, backup plans can be canceled too, and unlike her precious vacation, some cancellations come with penalties that compound daily. The heart monitor beeps a little faster as I start to plan. 5 days later, I'm discharged with a prescription for pain medication, a list of restrictions longer than a pharmaceutical commercial disclaimer, and a burning curiosity about what I'll find when I get home. The taxi driver helps me to the door of our apartment building, a converted warehouse in Somerville that Vanessa chose because it photographs well for her Instagram stories. The elevator ride to the 4th floor gives me time to think about what I'm going to say when she gets back tomorrow. She texted this morning with her flight information, complete with complaints about having to leave Paradise and return to boring real life. Apparently, her husband's recovery from major trauma qualifies as boring real life. I unlock our apartment door and step into what feels like a crime scene. Not because anything's been stolen, but because everything's been rearranged. My books are gone from the living room shelves. The photos of us together have vanished from the mantel. My coffee maker, the expensive one I bought with my Christmas bonus, is nowhere to be seen. In the bedroom, my side of the closet has been condensed into a single small section, like my entire wardrobe has been put on a diet. Vanessa's clothes have expanded to fill the space, spreading across the closet like some kind of fabric-based invasive species. On the dresser, where my watch and wallet usually live, there's a stack of mail that looks like it hasn't been touched since she left. Bills. Lots of them. The electric company wants their money. So does the cable provider, the insurance company, and the credit card companies that fund Vanessa's lifestyle. Past due notices printed on increasingly aggressive shades of pink and yellow, like a rainbow of financial negligence. I sit on the bed, our bed, and open the credit card statements. The charges tell a story that my hospital stay prevented me from reading in real time. Paradise Getaways. Travel, yes, but also charges I don't recognize. Restaurants I've never been to. A jewelry store in downtown Boston. Something called Bliss Spa and Wellness for $400. The jewelry store charge is dated 3 days before her trip. $450 at Hartwell Fine Jewelry. I know that place. It's where I bought her engagement ring 3 years ago. But I didn't buy her anything recently. My credit card was in my wallet, which was in my pocket, which was with me when I got hit by that truck. I call the jewelry store. Hartwell Fine Jewelry. This is Amanda. Hi. I'm calling about a recent purchase on my account. Eliot Glass. There's a charge for $450 that I don't remember making. Let me look that up for you, Mr. Glass. I hear typing in the background. Yes, here it is. A men's watch engraved. The inscription was, "To Lance with love, V." Does that help? The phone slips in my hand. Lance. I know a Lance. Lance Drummond, real estate broker, friend of Vanessa's from her marketing networking group, the guy who's been liking every single one of her Instagram posts for the past 6 months, including the ones from Mexico. Mr. Glass? Are you still there? Yes, I manage. Can you tell me who picked up the watch? I'm sorry, but I can only confirm that it was picked up by the cardholder. Is there a problem with the purchase? No problem, I say, though my ribs are starting to ache in a way that has nothing to do with the accident. Thanks for your help. I hang up and stare at the credit card statement. To Lance, with love, V. While I was lying in the ICU, wondering if my wife cared enough to cut her vacation short, she was apparently buying jewelry for another man. With my money. My phone buzzes. Another text from paradise. Flight lands at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Can't wait to see you. Hope you're feeling better. Miss you so much. Miss me so much. Right. She misses me so much that she bought another man a watch with our money while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. I spend the rest of the day going through our apartment like an investigator, looking for clues I was too trusting to notice before. In her desk drawer, I find receipts for restaurants during times she claimed to be working late. In her car, I discover a parking stub for the Marriott downtown, dated last month, when she said she was having dinner with her sister who lives in California. The picture starts to come together, piece by piece, like a jigsaw puzzle made of betrayal and lies. The Mexico trip wasn't just a girl's vacation, it was a celebration, a victory lap for a woman who thought she'd successfully hidden her double life from her oblivious husband. But here's the thing about nearly losing your life in a hospital bed. It gives you perspective. It shows you what really matters. And what really matters to me now isn't salvaging a marriage to a woman who buys other men jewelry with my credit card. What matters is making sure she understands exactly what non-refundable means. I open my laptop and start researching. Divorce lawyers, asset protection, Massachusetts community property laws. The internet is a wonderful thing when you're planning to dismantle someone's life with the same methodical precision they used to dismantle yours. By the time the sun sets over Somerville, I have a plan. And unlike Vanessa's vacation, my plan doesn't require any deposits. The satisfaction is going to be completely free. Well, free for me. For her, the cost is going to be everything. Vanessa comes through the door at 7:30 p.m., dragging a suitcase and radiating the kind of fake enthusiasm that people use when they're trying to convince themselves they're happy to be somewhere they don't want to be. Eliot, oh my God, look at you! She drops her suitcase and rushes over to hug me, but stops short when she sees my expression. How are you feeling? You look tired. Tired. That's one way to describe the look of a man who spent the day discovering his wife's secret life. I'm feeling much better, I say, staying seated on the couch. Recovery's been interesting. Lots of time to think. Lots of time to go through things. She doesn't catch the emphasis on go through things. She's too busy pulling out her phone to show me pictures from her trip. You should see these photos. The resort was incredible. Look at this sunset, and this one is me and the girls at the beach bar. Mara got so sunburned on the first day, it was hilarious. I watch her scroll through dozens of photos, each one a monument to her priorities. Here she is holding a drink. Here she is laughing with Stella and Mara. Here she is looking carefree and beautiful while her husband fought through the worst week of his life 3,000 miles away. Looks like you had a great time, I say. The best. I mean, I felt terrible about leaving you, but you said you understood about the non-refundable deposits, and I knew you'd want me to enjoy myself. Did I say that? I tried to remember our last conversation before she left. What I actually said was something like, I guess I understand, which in marriage speak translates to, I'm not happy about this, but I don't want to fight. But in Vanessa speak, apparently it meant, please abandon me in my time of greatest need. The girls kept asking about you, she continues, settling onto the couch next to me. I told them you were being so brave about everything. Stella said to tell you hi. Stella. Right. The same Stella who's been posting Instagram stories about their amazing girls' trip, without a single mention of why Vanessa might have needed emotional support during this particular week. Because that would have required acknowledging that her friend had a husband in the hospital, which doesn't fit the narrative of carefree vacation fun. That's nice of Stella, I say. Hey, I've been going through our bills while you were gone. There are some charges I wanted to ask you about. The change in her expression is subtle, but unmistakable. The vacation glow dims just a little, and her smile becomes more careful. Charges? Yeah, just some things I didn't recognize. Like Hartwell fine jewelry. $450. She's quiet for a moment, and I can practically see her brain working, trying to figure out how much I know and how much she can get away with denying. Oh, that, she says finally. I bought a gift for my dad. His birthday's coming up, remember? Her father's birthday is in December. It's currently August. A watch? I ask. Yes, a nice watch. You know how he is about timepieces. With an engraving that says, "To Lance, with love, V." The silence that follows is so complete, I can hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Vanessa stares at me, her mouth slightly open, like she's trying to form words, but can't quite remember how language works. I called the jewelry store, I explain, keeping my voice conversational. They were very helpful. Apparently, the watch was picked up by someone who definitely wasn't your father. She recovers faster than I expected, which tells me she's had practice at this kind of conversation. Okay, fine. It was for Lance. But it's not what you think. Really? What do I think? You think I'm having an affair, but I'm not. Lance is just a friend. A good friend who helped me plan the Mexico trip. The watch was a thank you gift. A thank you gift for helping plan a vacation that she prioritized over her husband's medical emergency. The logic is so twisted, it's almost impressive. A thank you gift, I repeat, engraved with love. It's just an expression, Eliot. You're reading too much into it. I pull out my phone and open her Instagram account, scrolling to the Mexico photos. These are beautiful pictures, I say, handing her the phone. You and the girls look like you're having the time of your lives. She relaxes a little, probably thinking I'm changing the subject. We really did. It was exactly what I needed after all the stress of your accident. The stress of my accident, I say slowly. Right. That must have been really hard for you, being on a beach while I was in intensive care. Don't be like that. You know I wanted to come home, but the trip was already paid for and Lance needed his thank you gift? Her face flushes, and for the first time since she walked through the door, she looks genuinely uncomfortable. You're being ridiculous, she says, standing up from the couch. I'm going to unpack. We can talk about this when you're feeling more rational. Rational. That's rich, coming from someone who thinks buying jewelry for another man while her husband recovers from major trauma is perfectly reasonable behavior. Take your time unpacking, I say. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. She heads toward the bedroom with her suitcase, and I hear her muttering something about paranoid and overreacting, but I also hear her making a phone call, her voice low and urgent. I can't make out the words, but I don't need to. I know she's calling Lance, warning him that her husband is asking questions, telling him they need to be more careful, maybe even planning their next move. That's fine. Let them plan. I've been planning too, and I have advantages they don't know about yet. Like the fact that I've already contacted a lawyer. Like the fact that I've documented every suspicious charge on our credit cards. Like the fact that I've been recording our conversations since she walked through the door. Massachusetts is a two-party consent state for recordings, but there are exceptions for situations involving suspected criminal activity, and using someone's credit card without permission? That's fraud, even if you're married to them. Vanessa thinks she's been clever, juggling her secret life while maintaining the facade of a devoted wife. But she made one crucial mistake. She assumed I'd never find out. She assumed I'd be too trusting, too naive, too grateful for her attention to look too closely at the details. She assumed wrong. From the bedroom, I hear her voice getting louder, more agitated. Whatever Lance is telling her, she doesn't like it. Good. Let them panic. Let them scramble to cover their tracks. It's too late for damage control now. I settle back into the couch and smile for the first time in days. Vanessa wanted a non-refundable vacation. Now she's about to learn that some experiences are truly non-refundable, like the experience of discovering that your husband isn't as clueless as you thought, and the penalties for late payment, they're about to come due. The next morning, Vanessa leaves early for work, claiming she has meetings to catch up on after her vacation. She kisses my forehead before she goes, a gesture that feels more like marking territory than showing affection. I wait until I hear her car leave the parking garage, then get to work. First stop, our home office, where Vanessa keeps her laptop and the filing cabinet that contains our financial records. The laptop is password protected, but I know Vanessa well enough to guess her passwords. She's always been predictable that way. Her current password is Vanessa Glass 2024. The same pattern she's used for years, just updating the year. Her email tells a story that's even more detailed than the credit card statements. Months of correspondence with Lance, starting innocent enough but quickly escalating into something that makes my stomach turn. Not because of the explicit content, though there's plenty of that, but because of the dates. Their affair started 6 months ago, right around the time I was working 60-hour weeks to secure the promotion that would pay for the European vacation she'd been wanting. While I was sacrificing sleep and weekends to give her the life she said she wanted, she was apparently finding comfort in the arms of a real estate broker who drives a BMW and posts gym selfies on Instagram. The Mexico trip wasn't a girl's vacation at all. It was a couple's retreat. Lance flew down separately and met them at the resort. I find the email confirmations, 2 rooms booked but only 1 used. Mara and Stella were apparently happy to provide cover for their friend's romantic getaway. I screenshot everything, saving it all to a secure cloud account that Vanessa doesn't know about. Every email, every photo, every receipt. The evidence is overwhelming, but I'm not done collecting it. Next, I call our credit card companies and request detailed statements going back a year. I tell them I'm concerned about potential fraud, which is technically true, just not in the way they're thinking. Within an hour, I have a complete picture of Vanessa's spending patterns, including charges at restaurants, hotels, and stores that paint a clear timeline of her double life. But the real treasure trove is in her car. While she's at work, I use my spare key to search her Honda. In the glove compartment, I find parking receipts for the Marriott downtown, not just the one I found yesterday, but dozens of them, going back months. In the center console, there's a receipt for lingerie from Victoria's Secret, dated 2 weeks ago. The receipt shows 2 items purchased, but I've only seen her wear one of them. The other one, I'm guessing, was a gift. My phone rings while I'm sitting in her car, surrounded by evidence of her betrayal. It's Sam Pruitt, the divorce attorney I contacted yesterday. Eliot, I've reviewed the information you sent me. This is actually a pretty straightforward case, given the documentation you've provided. How straightforward? Well, Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state, which means marital assets are divided fairly, not necessarily equally. But when one spouse has been using marital funds for an extramarital affair, that changes things significantly. I lean back in the driver's seat, feeling something like relief wash over me. What does that mean in practical terms? It means the court will likely award you a larger share of the marital assets to compensate for her misuse of funds. The credit card charges alone show a pattern of financial infidelity that judges don't look kindly upon. Financial infidelity. I like that term. It sounds so much more sophisticated than stealing money to buy your boyfriend presents. There's something else, Sam continues. The fact that she abandoned you during a medical emergency could be relevant to spousal support calculations. Massachusetts courts consider conduct during the marriage when determining alimony. She could end up owing me money? It's possible, especially if we can demonstrate that her actions caused you additional emotional distress during your recovery. After I hang up with Sam, I sit in Vanessa's car for a few more minutes, thinking about the woman I married 3 years ago. Or rather, thinking about the woman I thought I married. Because the person who's been living in our apartment, sleeping in our bed, and spending our money on another man, that's not the same person who walked down the aisle promising to love, honor, and cherish me. That person was an illusion. A carefully constructed facade designed to provide her with financial security and social respectability while she pursued whatever made her actually happy. I was never her husband. I was her cover story. My phone buzzes with a text from Vanessa. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Working late. Right. I check Lance's Instagram account and see a story posted 20 minutes ago. A photo of a wine glass at a restaurant downtown, captioned, "Celebrating good news with someone special." Good news. I wonder what kind of good news Lance thinks he's celebrating. Maybe Vanessa told him that her husband bought her story about the watch being a thank you gift. Maybe they think they're in the clear, that they can continue their affair without consequences. They're about to learn how wrong they are. I drive to the restaurant where Lance posted his photo. It's an upscale place in the North End, the kind of spot where real estate brokers take clients to close deals, or where they take other men's wives to celebrate their stupidity. I don't go inside. Instead, I park across the street and wait. Sure enough, at 9:30, Vanessa and Lance emerge together. She's wearing the dress I bought her for our anniversary last year, and he's got his hand on the small of her back in a gesture that's unmistakably possessive. They walk to the parking garage holding hands, completely oblivious to the fact that they're being watched. Why would they be careful? As far as they know, Vanessa's husband is home recovering from his accident, grateful that his wife came back from her vacation at all. I follow them to Lance's apartment building, a converted warehouse similar to ours, but in a more expensive neighborhood. They disappear inside together, and I sit in my car taking photos of the building, the address, the timestamps, more evidence for the growing file that will soon become the foundation of their destruction. But I don't leave yet. I have one more thing to do. Lance's BMW is parked in the building's garage, the same car that carried him to romantic dinners with my wife while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. It's a beautiful car, pristine and expensive, the kind of vehicle that screams success and sophistication. I walk around the car slowly, admiring the craftsmanship, the attention to detail, the way the paint reflects the garage lights like a mirror. Then I take out my keys and drag them along the passenger side, from the front wheel well to the rear bumper, leaving a deep scratch that will cost thousands to repair. On the windshield, I leave a note. Nonrefundable. E. Let them figure out what that means. Let them wonder how much I know and what I'm planning to do about it. Let them start looking over their shoulders, questioning every shadow, wondering when the other shoe is going to drop. Because it is going to drop. Soon. I drive home feeling better than I have since the accident. Not because of the scratch on Lance's car. That was just a preview, a small down payment on what's coming. I feel better because I'm finally taking action, finally fighting back against the people who thought they could manipulate and betray me without consequences. Vanessa's vacation was non-refundable, but so is betrayal. And the interest on that particular debt compounds daily. Tomorrow, the real collection process begins. Vanessa doesn't come home until 3 in the morning. I know because I'm lying awake in our bed, staring at the ceiling and listening for her key in the lock. When she finally creeps into the bedroom, she moves like someone trying not to wake a sleeping spouse, but I can smell Lance's cologne on her clothes. She slips into bed beside me, and I feel the mattress dip under her weight. For a moment, I consider confronting her right now, in the dark, when she can't see my face or gauge my expression. But I want to see hers when I reveal what I know. "How was work?" I ask softly. She freezes. "I thought you were asleep." "Couldn't sleep. My ribs are bothering me." It's not a lie. They do hurt, but not as much as discovering your wife's true nature. "You're home late." "The meeting ran long. You know how clients can be." Another lie, delivered so smoothly she might actually believe it herself. I wonder how many lies she's told me over the past 6 months, How many times she looked me in the eye and fabricated stories about where she'd been, who she'd seen, what she'd done. Must have been some meeting, I say. Did you get dinner? We ordered in, Chinese food, nothing special. I think about the wine glass in Lance's Instagram story, the expensive restaurant in the North End, the way they held hands walking to his car. Nothing special indeed. That's good, I say. I'm glad you're eating well. She settles into her pillow, probably thinking she's successfully navigated another deception. I listen to her breathing gradually slow and deepen, and I realize this is the last night we'll ever share this bed as husband and wife. Tomorrow everything changes. I don't sleep at all. The next morning, Vanessa is in the shower when Lance calls her phone. She left it on the nightstand, and his name appears on the screen along with a photo of him smiling at the camera, shirtless and confident. I let it go to voicemail, but not before taking a screenshot. When she comes out of the bathroom, wrapped in the robe I gave her last Christmas, I'm sitting on the edge of the bed holding her phone. Lance called, I say, watching her face carefully. She doesn't even flinch. Oh, probably something about the Henderson property. I'm helping him with the marketing. The Henderson property. Is that what they're calling it now? He left a voicemail. I continue. Should I play it? Now she reacts, reaching quickly for the phone. No, that's okay. I'll call him back later. But I'm already pressing play, and Lance's voice fills the room. Hey, beautiful, thanks for last night. I can't stop thinking about you in that dress. Call me when you get a chance. I have an idea for our next getaway. The silence that follows is deafening. Vanessa stands frozen in the middle of our bedroom, her face cycling through a series of expressions: shock, panic, calculation, and finally, defiance. It's not what it sounds like, she says. Really? What does it sound like? He's just being friendly. Lance is naturally flirtatious. It doesn't mean anything. I stand up and walk to the dresser, where I've laid out printed copies of their email correspondence, credit card statements, and photos I took last night. The evidence covers the entire surface like pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, reveal the complete picture of her betrayal. What about these? I ask, gesturing to the papers. She approaches slowly, her eyes scanning the documents. I watch her realize that I know everything, not just about Lance, but about the timeline, the expenses, the elaborate lies she's constructed to cover her tracks. You went through my email, she says, and there's genuine outrage in her voice, as if I'm the one who's violated our marriage. I went through our email, our credit card statements, our financial records, the accounts that I thought we shared as husband and wife. She picks up one of the printed emails, reading her own words back to herself. It's one of the explicit ones, where she describes in detail what she wants to do to Lance when they're alone together. Her face flushes as she reads it. You had no right, she says. I had no right. I had no right to investigate why my wife was spending our money on another man while I was fighting for my life in a hospital. You weren't fighting for your life. Don't be so dramatic. The casual dismissal of my medical emergency, the event that revealed her true priorities, hits me like a physical blow. She's not just unfaithful, she's genuinely incapable of empathy. You're right, I say, keeping my voice level. I wasn't fighting for my life. I was just lying in intensive care with internal injuries while you were in Mexico with your boyfriend. Lance wasn't in Mexico. I pick up another piece of paper, the hotel confirmation showing 2 rooms booked but only 1 used. The Marriott Cancún disagrees with you. She stares at the paper, and I can see her running through possible explanations, trying to find a story that might still salvage this situation. But there are too many pieces of evidence, too many contradictions to explain away. Fine, she says finally, dropping the pretense. Yes, I'm seeing Lance. Yes, he came to Mexico, but you can't act like you're surprised. We've been growing apart for months. Growing apart. That's how she justifies abandoning her husband during a medical emergency to vacation with her lover. When did it start? I ask. Does it matter? It matters to me. She sits on the edge of the bed, suddenly looking tired. 6 months ago, maybe 7. We met at a networking event and we just connected. 6 months ago, right when I started working overtime to pay for the European vacation she wanted, while I was sacrificing my health and sanity to give her the life she said she dreamed of, she was connecting with a real estate broker who promised her something I apparently couldn't provide. What happens now? She asks. I gather up the papers from the dresser, organizing them into a neat stack. Now you pack your things and leave. Today. This is my apartment too. Actually, it's not. I hand her another document, a lease agreement that shows only my name. I've been paying the rent from my account for the past year, remember? You said it would be easier for budgeting. Her face goes pale as she realizes the implications. Without her name on the lease, she has no legal right to stay here. You can't just throw me out. I'm not throwing you out. I'm asking you to leave. There's a difference. She stands up, and for a moment I think she might try to fight this, might attempt to argue or negotiate or manipulate her way back into my good graces. But then she looks at the evidence spread across the dresser, at the documentation of her months of lies and betrayal, and something in her expression changes. Fine, she says. I'll pack some things. But this isn't over, Eliot. I'm not going to let you destroy my life because you can't handle the truth about our marriage. The truth about our marriage? I repeat. The truth is that you abandoned your husband during a medical emergency to vacation with your lover. The truth is that you've been stealing our money to buy gifts for another man. The truth is that you're a liar and a cheat who's finally been caught. She moves toward the closet, her movements sharp and angry. You think you're so perfect. You think you're the victim here. But you have no idea what it's like being married to someone who takes you for granted. Takes you for granted? I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for your lifestyle. I bought you everything you asked for. I supported your career, your friends, your hobbies. What more did you want? I wanted to feel alive, she shouts, spinning around to face me. I wanted passion and excitement and someone who looked at me like I was the most important thing in the world. When was the last time you made me feel special, Eliot? When was the last time you surprised me, or did something romantic, or made me feel like I mattered? The accusation stings because there's a grain of truth in it. I had been taking our marriage for granted, assuming that providing financial security and stability was enough. I thought love was about reliability, consistency, being there when it mattered. But I was there when it mattered. She wasn't. You want to know the last time I tried to make you feel special? I say. It was 3 weeks ago when I booked reservations at that restaurant you love for our anniversary. The same night you claimed you had to work late, but actually went to Lance's apartment. She doesn't have an answer for that. Pack your things, I say quietly. I'll be in the living room. When you're done, leave your key on the dresser. I walk out of the bedroom and close the door behind me, leaving her alone with the wreckage of the life she chose to destroy. From the other side of the door, I hear drawers opening and closing, hangers scraping against the closet rod, the sounds of someone hastily packing a life into suitcases. My phone buzzes with a text from Sam Pruitt. Divorce papers are ready for filing. When do you want to proceed? I type back. Today. Vanessa emerges from the bedroom 40 minutes later, dragging 2 suitcases and a garment bag. She's changed into jeans and a sweater, and she's wearing the sunglasses she uses when she doesn't want people to see that she's been crying. I'll be back for the rest of my things, she says. Call first. I'll make sure I'm here. She pauses at the door, her hand on the knob. You know this makes you look pathetic, right? Throwing out your wife because she found someone who actually appreciates her. You're right, I say. I should have thrown you out months ago when I first suspected something was wrong, but I made the mistake of trusting you. I won't make that mistake again. She leaves without another word, and I listen to her footsteps echoing in the hallway, growing fainter until they disappear entirely. Then I'm alone in our apartment, my apartment, surrounded by the silence that comes after a storm. I should feel sad, or angry, or heartbroken. Instead, I feel something I haven't experienced in months: relief. The waiting is over. The uncertainty is over. The pretense that we had a marriage worth saving is finally over. Now, the real work begins. Sam Pruitt's office smells like leather and old books, the kind of place where serious decisions get made by serious people who charge serious money for their expertise. I'm sitting across from his mahogany desk, watching him review the evidence I've compiled against Vanessa, and I can tell by his expression that he's impressed. "This is thorough," he says, flipping through bank statements and printed emails. "Almost obsessively thorough. How long did it take you to gather all this?" 3 days. I had a lot of motivation." Sam chuckles, the dry laugh of someone who's seen enough divorce cases to appreciate the extremes of human behavior. "I've been practicing family law for 20 years, and I've rarely seen documentation this comprehensive. Your wife's attorney is going to have a very difficult time disputing any of this. She doesn't have an attorney yet. As far as I know, she doesn't even know I'm filing. She'll find out soon enough. The papers will be served tomorrow." Sam leans back in his chair, studying me over his reading glasses. "Are you sure you want to proceed this aggressively? Once we file these papers with this level of detail, there's no going back to amicable negotiations." There was never going to be amicable negotiations. She made sure of that when she chose to vacation with her boyfriend instead of visiting her husband in the hospital. "Fair enough." Sam closes the file and looks at me seriously. "Based on the evidence you've provided, I'm confident we can secure a favorable settlement. The financial infidelity alone gives us significant leverage, and the abandonment during your medical emergency adds another layer of misconduct that Massachusetts courts take seriously. What kind of timeline are we looking at? If she doesn't contest the divorce, we could have this wrapped up in 6 months. If she fights it," Sam shrugs, "could take a year or more. But honestly, given the evidence against her, I don't think her attorney will recommend a prolonged fight." After leaving Sam's office, I drive to the bank where Vanessa and I have our joint accounts. The branch manager, a woman named Patricia who's handled our banking for 3 years, greets me with the kind of professional sympathy reserved for customers going through personal crises. "I'm sorry to hear about your situation, Mr. Glass," she says, reviewing the paperwork I've brought. "Divorce is never easy." "No, it's not. But I need to protect myself financially while this gets sorted out." Patricia nods, understanding the implications. "We can freeze the joint accounts immediately, which means no withdrawals can be made without both signatures. Your individual account remains unaffected, of course." "What about credit cards?" "I'd recommend canceling any cards where she's an authorized user. You can keep the accounts open in your name only, but her access will be terminated. It takes 2 hours to restructure our financial arrangements, but by the time I leave the bank, Vanessa's access to our money has been completely severed. She'll discover this the next time she tries to use a credit card, probably when she's out with Lance and suddenly finds herself unable to pay for dinner." The thought makes me smile. My phone rings as I'm driving home. It's an unknown number, but I answer anyway. "Is this Eliot Glass?" The voice is male, nervous, unfamiliar. "Yes." "This is Lance Drummond. I think we need to talk." Lance. The man who's been sleeping with my wife, spending my money, and celebrating his good fortune while I recovered from a near-fatal accident. The man who's about to discover that his good fortune has run out. "I don't think we have anything to discuss," I say. "Look, I know you're upset about Vanessa, but this doesn't have to get ugly. We're all adults here." Adults. That's rich, coming from someone who's been sneaking around behind my back for months. "You're right," I say. "We are adults. Which means you're old enough to understand that actions have consequences." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you chose to pursue a married woman. You chose to help her betray her husband. You chose to vacation with her while that husband was in the hospital. Now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. There's a pause, and I can hear him breathing heavily on the other end of the line. I want you to stay away from Vanessa, he says finally. Vanessa is my wife. Legally, she's still my wife. You're the one who should be staying away. Not for much longer, according to what she told me. She said you're filing for divorce. So, Vanessa's been keeping Lance informed about our situation. Of course she has. They're probably planning their next move together, figuring out how to minimize the damage to their relationship while maximizing what they can extract from the wreckage of my marriage. The divorce will be final when it's final, I say. Until then, you're still the other man, and other men don't get to make demands. I hang up before he can respond. Let him stew on that. Let him wonder what I'm planning, what evidence I have, how much damage I can do to his comfortable little life. The answer is, quite a lot. That evening, I'm researching Lance's real estate business online when my doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Vanessa standing in the hallway, and she doesn't look happy. I open the door, but don't invite her in. My credit cards aren't working, she says without preamble. I know. You can't just cut off my access to our money. Actually, I can. And I did. She pushes past me into the apartment, her movements sharp with anger. This is ridiculous, Eliot. We're still married. Those are joint accounts. We're joint accounts. Now they're frozen pending the divorce proceedings. Divorce proceedings? Her voice rises to a near shriek. You filed for divorce? I close the door and lean against it, blocking her exit, not to trap her, but to make it clear that this conversation will happen on my terms. You'll be served with papers tomorrow. I wanted to give you a heads up. She stares at me like I've just announced I'm moving to Mars. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You made your choice when you decided Lance was more important than your marriage. Now I'm making mine. We can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can… Work it out? I interrupt. You abandoned me in the hospital to vacation with your boyfriend. You've been stealing our money to buy him gifts. You've been lying to me for months. What exactly do you think we can work out? She starts pacing around the living room, her hands gesturing wildly as she talks. People make mistakes, Eliot. People have affairs. It doesn't mean the marriage is over. It does when the person having the affair shows complete disregard for their spouse's well-being. I made one mistake. You made hundreds of mistakes. Every lie you told was a choice. Every time you used our credit card to pay for your dates with Lance was a choice. Every night you came home smelling like his cologne was a choice. She stops pacing and looks at me with something that might be desperation. What do you want? Money. I can pay you back for the things I bought Lance. I don't want your money. I want you out of my life. Fine. But I'm not going to make this easy for you. If you want a divorce, you're going to pay for it. I pull out my phone and show her a photo I took of her and Lance holding hands outside the restaurant. You're going to fight a divorce based on adultery and abandonment? With this level of evidence against you? She looks at the photo, then at me, and I can see the calculation happening behind her eyes. She's trying to figure out how much I know, how much I can prove, and how much damage I can do to her reputation if this gets ugly. You're bluffing, she says finally. Am I? I scroll through my phone, showing her more photos, screenshots of her emails, copies of credit card statements. Your boyfriend called me today, by the way. Wanted to have a man-to-man talk about staying away from you. Lance called you? Apparently he thinks he has some kind of claim on you. I set him straight. She's quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then she straightens her shoulders and looks at me with the kind of cold determination I've never seen from her before. You think you're so smart, she says. You think you have all the power here, but you're forgetting something important. What's that? I know things about you too, things that might not look so good in a divorce proceeding. I almost laugh. Like what? Like the fact that you've been emotionally absent for months. Like the fact that you care more about work than your wife. Like the fact that you haven't touched me in weeks. Because you've been sleeping with someone else. The court doesn't know that timeline. For all they know, I sought comfort elsewhere because my husband was neglecting me. It's a weak threat, and we both know it. But it tells me something important about Vanessa. She's not going to go quietly. She's going to fight, even if she doesn't have a winning hand. That's fine. I'm prepared for a fight. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Good luck with that strategy, I say, opening the door for her. I'm sure your attorney will love trying to explain why emotional neglect justifies financial fraud and abandonment during a medical emergency. She walks to the door, then turns back one more time. This isn't over, Eliot. You're right, I agree. It's not over. It's just getting started. After she leaves, I pour myself a glass of wine and sit on the couch, thinking about what comes next. Vanessa wants to fight? Fine. Let her fight. She has no idea what she's up against, but she's about to find out. The process server finds Vanessa at her office 3 days later. I know this because she calls me immediately afterward, her voice shaking with rage and something that might be fear. You bastard, she says without preamble. You had me served at work, in front of my colleagues. I told the process server to find you wherever you were. I didn't specify the location. My boss wants to see me in an hour. An hour, Eliot. Do you know what this could do to my career? Her career. She's worried about her career while she's facing divorce papers that detail her financial fraud and abandonment of her hospitalized husband. The irony is almost too perfect. You should have thought about that before you decided to embezzle money from our joint accounts to fund your affair. I didn't embezzle anything. That money was as much mine as yours. The court will decide that, along with deciding whether abandoning your spouse during a medical emergency constitutes grounds for an unequal distribution of assets. There's a long pause, and I can hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line. I want to settle this privately, she says finally. No lawyers, no court proceedings. We can split everything 50-50 and move on with our lives. No. What do you mean, no? I mean no. You had your chance to handle this privately when you decided to cheat on me. You had your chance to show some basic human decency when I was in the hospital. You chose differently. Now we do this my way. You're being vindictive. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. She hangs up on me, but I know she'll call back. She needs something from me now, my cooperation in making this go away quietly. But cooperation is a two-way street, and she's been driving in the wrong direction for months. Sure enough, she calls back an hour later. This time her voice is different, smaller, more desperate. I talked to my boss, she says. She's putting me on administrative leave pending an investigation into my personal conduct. Apparently someone sent her copies of the divorce papers. Someone, right? As if divorce papers are public documents that anyone can access, which they're not, unless someone specifically provides them to interested parties. That's unfortunate, I say. Did you send them to her? I don't even know who your boss is. It's not technically a lie. I don't know her boss personally, but I do know her name, her email address, and her company's policy regarding employees whose personal lives might reflect poorly on the organization. All information that's readily available online for anyone motivated enough to look. This is destroying my life, Vanessa says, and for the first time since this started, she sounds genuinely broken. Your life isn't being destroyed. It's being restructured. There's a difference. I could lose my job. You could. Actions have consequences. Please, Eliot. I know I made mistakes, but this is too much. I'm begging you to stop this. Begging. The woman who abandoned me in the hospital to vacation with her boyfriend is now begging me to show her the mercy she never showed me. What exactly do you want me to stop? I ask. All of it. The divorce papers, the financial investigation, whatever you're doing to sabotage my career. I'll disappear from your life completely. You'll never have to see me again. That's going to happen anyway once the divorce is finalized. But it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be so destructive. Destructive. She's right about that. What I'm doing to her life is destructive. Methodically, comprehensively destructive. And I'm just getting started. You want to know what was destructive? I say. Finding out that my wife bought jewelry for another man with our money while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. That was destructive. I said I was sorry. No, you didn't. You said it wasn't what it looked like. You said I was being paranoid. You said I had no right to go through our financial records. You've never actually apologized for anything. She's quiet for a moment, and when she speaks again, her voice is barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the affair. I'm sorry for the lying. I'm sorry for not being there when you needed me. I'm sorry for all of it. It's the first genuine apology I've heard from her, but it comes too late and costs too little. Apology noted, I say, but it doesn't change anything. What do you want from me? What will it take to make this stop? I want you to experience the consequences of your choices. I want you to understand what it feels like to have your life upended by someone you trusted. I want you to know what abandonment feels like. You're not the man I married. You're right. The man you married was naive enough to trust you. That man is gone. I hang up and turn off my phone. I don't want to hear from her again today. I have work to do. Lance's real estate business, it turns out, operates on a much smaller margin than his Instagram posts would suggest. A few phone calls to his clients, people whose contact information is readily available on his company website, reveal some interesting information about his business practices. Apparently, Lance has a habit of inflating property values to secure higher commissions, a practice that's technically legal but ethically questionable. More interesting is the fact that several of his recent clients have complained to the state real estate board about his conduct. Nothing that would cost him his license, but enough to establish a pattern of behavior that might concern his employer. I compile this information into a detailed report and send it anonymously to the managing broker at Lance's firm. Not because I expect it to get him fired, but because I want him to spend the next few weeks looking over his shoulder, wondering who's investigating him and why. The next morning, I receive a call from Detective Linda Rowe of the Somerville Police Department. Mr. Glass, I need to speak with you about a complaint that's been filed against you. What kind of complaint? Harassment and stalking. Can you come to the station this afternoon? Harassment and stalking. Vanessa's playing a new angle, trying to use the legal system to protect herself from the consequences of her actions. It's a smart move, actually. If she can convince the police that I'm harassing her, it might give her leverage in the divorce proceedings. I'll be there at 2 o'clock, I tell Detective Rowe. Bring a lawyer. The police station smells like disinfectant and desperation. Detective Rowe is a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that comes from dealing with humanity's worst impulses on a daily basis. Your wife claims you've been following her, vandalizing her boyfriend's car, and interfering with her employment, she says, reading from a file. She also says you've been making threatening phone calls. Sam Pruitt, who insisted on accompanying me, leans forward. What evidence does she have to support these claims? Photos of damage to Mr. Drummond's vehicle. Phone records showing multiple calls from Mr. Glass's number. Testimony from Mrs. Glass's employer about receiving anonymous information regarding the divorce proceedings. I almost admire Vanessa's thoroughness. She's building a case that paints me as an obsessive, vindictive ex-husband who can't accept that his marriage is over. If I were in her position, I might try the same strategy. Detective Rowe, Sam says, my client has been the victim of financial fraud and abandonment by his wife. He has every right to pursue legal remedies for her misconduct. Legal remedies, yes. Vigilante justice, no. Sam opens his briefcase and pulls out a thick folder. These are copies of the evidence we've compiled regarding Mrs. Glass's affair and financial misconduct. As you can see, Mr. Glass has been pursuing this matter through proper legal channels. Detective Rowe reviews the documents, her expression growing more skeptical as she reads. After several minutes, she looks up at me. "Did you damage Mr. Drummond's car?" "I scratched it," I admit. "Once. And I left a note taking responsibility." "That's vandalism. It's also a misdemeanor that I'm willing to pay restitution for." "What about the phone calls to Mrs. Glass?" "We're still married. I have a right to communicate with my wife." "And the information sent to her employer?" Sam intervenes before I can answer. "My client has not admitted to any such action, and Mrs. Glass has provided no evidence linking him to it." Detective Rowe closes the file and looks at both of us with the expression of someone who's dealt with too many domestic disputes. "Here's what's going to happen," she says. "Mr. Glass, you're going to stay away from Mr. Drummond and his property. No more contact, no more vandalism, no more anything. Mrs. Glass, you're going to stop filing frivolous complaints unless you have actual evidence of criminal behavior. And both of you are going to handle your marital problems through the court system like civilized adults." "What about the harassment charges?" Sam asks. "There won't be any charges filed at this time. But Mr. Glass, consider this a warning. Any further contact with Mr. Drummond or interference with Mrs. Glass's employment will result in arrest." Fair enough. I've made my point with Lance, and Vanessa's employer already has the information they need to make their own decisions about her conduct. The direct approach has served its purpose. Now it's time for more subtle methods. Outside the police station, Sam pulls me aside. "You need to be more careful," he says. "Vanessa's building a narrative that you're unstable and vindictive. If she can make that stick, it could hurt us in the divorce proceedings." I understand. "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're more interested in revenge than in protecting your interests." He's not wrong, but he's not entirely right either. What I'm doing isn't just about revenge. It's about justice. It's about making sure that people who betray others face real consequences for their actions. I'll be more careful, I promise. Good, because we're winning this case. Don't give her ammunition to fight back. But as I drive home, I'm already planning my next move. Detective Rowe said I can't contact Lance directly or interfere with Vanessa's employment. She didn't say anything about other forms of consequence. After all, there are many ways to make someone understand the cost of their choices, and I'm just getting started exploring them. The game isn't over, it's just moving to a new level. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my apartment, reading the final divorce decree. The judge awarded me 70% of our marital assets, citing Vanessa's egregious misconduct and abandonment during a medical emergency as grounds for an unequal distribution. She's also required to pay me spousal support for 2 years, a delicious irony that I'm sure she appreciates every month when she writes the check. Vanessa lost her job 3 weeks after our divorce was finalized. The company cited conduct incompatible with organizational values as the reason for her termination. She's working at a smaller firm now, making about half what she used to earn. Lance's real estate career didn't survive the investigation into his business practices. The state board suspended his license for 6 months, and his former employer terminated his contract. He's selling insurance now, driving a used Honda instead of the BMW that I decorated with my keys. They're still together, as far as I know, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Medford, sharing the financial consequences of their choices. I hope they're happy. I hope their love is strong enough to survive the stress of financial hardship and professional humiliation. I doubt it, though. Relationships built on betrayal rarely survive when the excitement fades and reality sets in. As for me, I'm doing well. Better than well, actually. The promotion I was working toward when Vanessa started her affair came through last month, along with a significant salary increase. I've been traveling, something I never had time for when I was working 60-hour weeks to fund my ex-wife's lifestyle. Last month, I spent 2 weeks in Italy. Next month, I'm going to Japan. I'm also seeing someone new. Her name is Rachel, and she's a nurse at Massachusetts General, not Nurse Trish, but someone I met when I went back for a follow-up appointment. Rachel was there when her father had his heart attack last year. She never left his side. We're taking things slowly, building something based on trust and mutual respect rather than passion and excitement. It's different from what I had with Vanessa, but different in all the right ways. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the man I was before the accident, the man who trusted blindly, who assumed the best of people, who believed that love and loyalty were reciprocal forces. That man is gone, replaced by someone more careful, more observant, more aware of the price of naivety. I don't miss him. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignore it, but curiosity gets the better of me. I hope you're satisfied with what you've done to us. Vanessa. Still trying to make me feel guilty for holding her accountable for her choices. Still trying to paint herself as the victim in a story where she abandoned her husband to vacation with her lover. I type back, completely satisfied. Thanks for asking. She doesn't respond, and I don't expect her to. What more is there to say? She made her choices, I made mine, and now we're all living with the consequences. I delete her number from my phone and pour myself a glass of wine. Outside my window, the sun is setting over Somerville, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. It's beautiful, and I'm here to see it, alive and healthy and free from the weight of a marriage built on lies. Vanessa was right about one thing. Some things are non-refundable, but she was wrong about which things those are. Her vacation was just money, money that can be earned back, spent again, forgotten. Trust, loyalty, love, those are the things that are truly non-refundable. Once spent, once betrayed, once abandoned in a hospital room while you sip margaritas on a beach, they're gone forever. And the penalties for that kind of default? They last a lifetime. I raise my glass to the sunset, to second chances, to the hard-earned wisdom that comes from surviving betrayal. Tomorrow, Rachel and I are having dinner at that restaurant in the North End, the same one where Vanessa and Lance celebrated their deception. But this time, I'll be there with someone who understands that love isn't about grand gestures or exotic vacations or expensive gifts. It's about showing up when it matters. And that, unlike everything else in this story, is completely refundable, as long as you're willing to invest in the right person. The receipt for my old life has been marked void. The new one is paid in full.